Well, welcome everybody. We're really excited to have you tuning in today. We know that many of you joining us tonight have probably attended a number of our other parent information sessions. So, similar faces, my same old background. I appreciate the well wishes from parents coming into Chromebook pickup on Saturday and Sunday this weekend. I have to laugh because I had a few parents say, "Are you that lady that's on the videos?" As I had my mask on, and I said, "Yeah, that's me." So I appreciate the well wishes from families. And, this is our final, not completely final, but in this getting the school year launched, this is our presentation for our MyPath families. And we're thankful that you're joining us. Please know that if you have any tech issues or you get off the Vimeo live stream. We are recording this and it will be posted on our district website shortly after this meeting closes, so that if you have a neighbor that's working late and couldn't join in, don't worry. All the information shared tonight will be there, and you can point them in that direction and or share it yourself. So we're happy to have you. In the room with me today is Dr. Laura Stout, and Laura is our administrator that's overseeing the MyPath program for Walled Lake Schools, K-12. And those of you who got the welcome letter from Laura on Friday, I was able to share that out with our families. Laura's just got a wealth of experience and is our main contact 612 when it comes to Edgenuity, but she's taking on this K-5 piece for us as well. And we were meeting with teachers today, and we said, it's a learning curve at K-5 for all of us, but we're excited. We're excited to offer this with our families and get this program started. Dr. Chris Delgado, our deputy superintendent, is also here. Many of you recognize him from our other parent info sessions, so welcome back. Thanks for being here. Ms. Nicole Moore is our Director of Special Services, and I've invited her to join us as well. And she's going to be just talking briefly about if you have a student in MyPath who has received special services in any form. She'll just talk briefly about that and cover that as part of our presentation tonight. So I get to do the presentation. I'm going to share my screen, so give me just a moment because there is a little technical switcheroo here that I have to do. So give me just a moment and I will get that session up. And let me get back to here, and we are going to view it in present mode. There we go. So welcome everybody. We did our introductions, you know who's in the room. Let's talk about MyPath. So it's just a welcome today. As a quick reminder, our meeting's recorded, but we're excited to get started on this new venture for all of us in virtual learning, because it is quite different. For those of you that may have attended one of the earlier parent info sessions, I explained the difference between remote learning and virtual learning. And this is true virtual learning. It is at your own pace, you're following your own path with the curriculum. You're making it work for you flexibly within your own schedules. And we've offered that because we do feel it's an important way for us to help our families to get through this time that we're having. But we also feel that there's some really unique learning opportunities that exist in a virtual world. So, we're not shy about exploring that with our families. So, and as you know, Edgenuity is our curriculum that we're following. They are the longtime service provider of our classes that we've offered at the 9-12 level. We do have Access 6-12, but K-5, new for them in the last few years. So our agenda today, what we're going to be covering in the presentation. Under MyPath, we are going to be discussing the difference between the teacher role and the parent role. And our teachers received some pretty extensive training with Edgenuity late last week during the professional development days when all of our teachers were back in the district with us. But very specific things that they've learned that we've learned as well, but we want to share with you about what's my role as a parent, what's the teacher's role, and how is that going to work. We also want to inform parents and take you kind of into that student view of the courseware. What does it look like? What is it going to look like as my kids get into this? And what does it look like on their end? So I'm really excited to share that with all of you so you can take a peek into that. Many are wondering about logins and passwords and things like that. I'm going to talk about workbooks as well. So all of those resources, we will cover sort of the timeline for that and get everybody set up with what they're needing very soon. We also are going to talk about FAPES. How does that work in? My student, maybe you checked your Skyward, you can see your teacher. Everybody should have heard from their teacher today with some point of contact, but what about FAPES and how is that going to work? I know that Ms. Moore is going to talk about special services just real quickly. I would like to talk with families about what kinds of assessments your children will be taking during their time in My Path. And then kind of a what's next. We've got some Q&A things and things we'd like to cover with everyone. So I know that many of you have been wonderfully supportive. You know that this is a process to get any virtual learning system up and running. So you know that we're working behind the scenes 24/7 for weeks now, and we have we appreciate your support along this way. So we're excited to kind of get you into My Path and how this all works out. So oopsie, let me go back there. So what's the parent role in My Path? Well, parents are essentially what Edgenuity calls a learning coach, and others can be learning coaches too. So I just want to kind of explain that learning coach piece. It's the parent, it's a guardian. I know there are grandparents out there who are kind of overseeing some of this work on Edgenuity. It can be anyone really who's overseeing your child's at-home learning. So I've received emails from parents saying, well, what if I've hired a college student, who's also home doing online classes, and they're going to come during the day and they're going to watch, the kids while I have to go to work. And those people can function as a learning coach too. I was made aware that there were some families that were kind of getting little pods going and set up, and maybe one parent is kind of overseeing that one week and another parent another week. And I understand that there's families, working together in some of those cases. And really anyone overseeing that online learning can be the learning coach. So what does that mean? What does it mean to say, okay, I've got to be a learning coach? I've never done that before. I'm not a teacher. I'm just, I'm just having someone oversee this, or I'm at home. Well, essentially, the role of the learning coach is going to be to guide the student through the lessons as needed. Remember, this is flexible. This does not have to follow the school day schedule. It's going to follow a different path. I know that many families were a little, like, oh, do I have, a math assignment at 8 o'clock this morning? No, not quite yet in My Path. We have to get some things set up with our families. We know that that's important for virtual learning to be really successful. So the role of the learning coach is going to be to guide the student through the lessons, discussing those concepts that are being taught, assist with any interactive tools and games. And please know that a lot of that, and we talked about this in the tech session last Thursday night, a lot of this is going to be as students get familiar. As a former elementary teacher and elementary principal, I can tell you that kids pick up on things rather quickly. And, all it takes is a couple of times to show them how to do something, and they're going to be off and running with it. So as you are assisting with those interactive tools and games, know it's probably not forever. Our students are going to learn to use those tools really quickly, and they'll become independent with that. You'll want to oversee the assignments. So as students are completing their work, you'll want to go back and show me what you did today. Or, if it's later in the evening after work and your children are working on something and you're making dinner, that's a great opportunity to say, okay, let me see what you did. So overseeing those and checking on that is going to be critical. If there's any hands-on learning that might be part of the course, the learning coach would help facilitate that. Checking for understanding in assignments. So check in and see, does it look like your children are understanding? Does it look like they're struggling? If they're struggling, that's that time to email the Walled Lake mentor teacher and say, hey, can you help me here? So that's that whole piece. We need you in partnership with us. You want to keep the student on a schedule and on pace. So remember, while it is my path and you're learning at your own, convenient times, maybe it's 3 in the afternoon, maybe it's 8 in the morning, maybe it's 7 at night. We know that that's got to work with your schedule. So whatever that schedule is, make sure that you're keeping the students, your children moving through that schedule. Ensure that all of the components of the course get done. So for instance, if there's an independent reading piece, or older students might be studying a novel or practice some type of an activity, perhaps in math, just ensure that all the components of that lesson are getting completed. And then, as I had stated earlier, obviously you want to communicate with the teacher. If you're stuck on something or your student's not understanding it and you've tried explaining it and it's not quite getting there, that's when you reach out and you email your MyPath teacher. And that's we'll get to their role in just a little bit, but that is the essential communication piece, letting them know. And then the last bullet is previewing the courses by starting with the resources module. And everybody out there's like, what? Don't worry, it's all right. The teachers will help guide you through what that means and what that looks like. That's been part of their training last week. But we just wanted to kind of clarify, what's my role as a parent with my child in my path? Early on when we explained it, we were transparent, telling parents that, hey, this is kind of going to be, you're overseeing this at your time and what works for your schedule and flexibility, or maybe someone that you have overseeing that. But we wanted to kind of get a little bit more into the details of what that looks like and how you're going to be partnering with us and our Walled Lake teachers to help your children be successful. So the next screen focuses on the teacher role. So as parents or guardians or caregivers are functioning as that learning coach, our teachers, their main goals, especially as we start, and I know that Dr. Stout, you said this so nicely in that letter that went out on Friday, but it really is ensuring that we are forming relationships with our students and our families. We don't want this to feel completely isolating. We want this to be a partnership. And so our teachers, they were reaching out to families already today, welcoming them. This is sort of there's a saying in education, and really in any take on of new initiatives, where it says, go slow to go fast. You want to ease into things so that everybody's confident as you move forward. And that's very, very true of my path and of virtual learning. By no means will your child be behind. I know that that may be something that's on your mind, but please rest assured, we have plenty of time to get into this curriculum, for teachers to help move your kids through that, for you to be overseeing that as your kids complete work. So please don't worry. Starting slow is okay for these first few days. We're doing that in our path as well. So please know we're going to provide that flexibility as we're all getting used to this. Monitoring course activity and attendance. So the teachers are going to be going on daily to check and see, are students getting through their assignments? Are they completing what the lessons are? There's a way for them to track that. They're going to see that kids are on, and checking attendance. Now, that's not meaning checking attendance like, did you log on at 8 o'clock in the morning? Or did you log on at 1 in the afternoon? Not that type of attendance. But teachers have a way of looking and seeing, oh, maybe it's been a day or two since they've logged on. Boy, I hope everything's okay. So that teacher's role is just going to be to monitor that kids are attending to their classes, that they're getting in there and getting their assignments done. They're also going to grade activities, and they'll be providing feedback to you and your children within 1 to 3 days. So if they've got kids on their caseload, they're going to be going through assignments, they're going to be reaching out. So as your students complete things or complete an assessment, teachers will be providing that feedback in a pretty good turnaround time. Also, teachers may be reaching out to you to provide individual or group learning sessions. Now, please know, this is not the same as RPath. This is strictly coordinated with you. I'll take you back up to the first bullet where it says form relationships with students and families, and then it says schedule. I neglected to kind of talk about that. What we really want our K-5 teachers doing this week is not only saying welcome, getting you some resources, talking about how we're getting started, but also building that contact schedule. Because maybe for you, 10 a.m. is a great time for you and your children to get some contact time from the teacher. And maybe it's not until 7 o'clock at night. Remember when we talked about MyPath, we said our teachers are available between 9 and 9. It doesn't mean they're working 12 hours. It just means that between 9 and 9, they're going to have flexibility in their schedule to work in your schedule that works for you. So when it comes to those individual or group lessons, our teachers are going to be very, very sensitive in knowing that it's got to work within your schedule, and it will be prearranged so that and nobody's caught saying, I didn't know there was something, or, oh, my kids had to join in. And besides that, individual and group time is going to be when those teachers can reinforce some of the skills and check in and do some of that work that we know they're anxious and excited to do. We also want our teachers to monitor and intervene when milestones aren't met. So if a student is really struggling and they're noticing that when they're monitoring the progress on the course activity, and maybe you just haven't had a chance to reach out to the teacher, that teacher is going to reach out to you and say, I see that, you know, your child maybe isn't getting through the lessons, or is there something that's they're struggling with? So we know that our teachers are going to be watching this progress closely. They'll respond to any of your communications within 24 hours. So if you reach out to the teacher will get back to you within that 24-hour period of time. Now, the exception to that may be if it's Friday night and you didn't get around to getting to your lessons and it's 10 p.m., they're not going to call you on Saturday. They'll call you Monday morning or Monday at a time that works for you. So please know that doesn't apply to over the weekend, but certainly they'll get back to you right away and help you work through whatever the roadblock might be with you and your child or your children. We also want them to reach out to students at least once a week to discuss progress. So every week, your individual child should be hearing from that teacher. So that's why that schedule and setting up of a schedule time is going to be really important for our teachers to do that, so that you kind of know, okay, maybe Wednesday's my check-in day, or maybe it's Thursday evening. Whatever that schedule looks like, you'll know when it's time for teachers to do that once a week check-in on progress, in addition to other, supports that they may be providing on an as-needed basis. So the other thing I did want to point out is that while we have teachers teaching their coursework, their grade level as close to their grade level experiences as possible. So for instance, we may have a second grade teacher who for MyPath this year is covering second grade, but they also might be covering third grade. Now, I don't want you to think, oh my goodness, is my second grader going to be involved in activities with third graders? No, it's just that as our MyPath Walled Lake teacher is overseeing students, they may be overseeing some second graders and some third graders, because all of this was dependent on how many students enrolled in MyPath and how we could create equal groups. But we met with our K-5 staff today, who are phenomenal, by the way. These are some of the top folks. They are excited. They're taking on that challenge of maybe covering kids in 2 different grade levels. But we just wanted you to know that we have really expert teachers who are going to be doing some incredible things with kids. So we look forward to that. So what about logins and passwords? And I had mentioned workbooks at the beginning, and I also said more because there is even a little bit more. So as we've been working with Edgenuity, they have, obviously shared with us that once we got our student counts and once we got our teachers identified last week, Edgenuity needs time to create our Walled Lake platform and take those student files and those teacher files, merge them so that when we do release logins and passwords, everybody matches up. So I need everybody to just give us a couple of days, be patient. Edgenuity is building that based on the information we gave them, quickly last week. And that in the meantime, though, we've got great things that teachers are going to be reaching out and doing with kids this week. As soon as Edgenuity has that platform ready to unlock, teachers are going to send you your email logins and through email, the logins and the passwords on how you get on. Every student K-5 gets a workbook through Edgenuity. That's just part of the program. But like many things right now, things are on back order. So, if you haven't been able to find Clorox wipes, I think the Edgenuity workbooks might fall into that same category. They're a hot commodity right now, so they are working with their publisher and they're printing more, but they did tell us that not to worry. They sent us PDFs of the workbooks and our teachers are going to be emailing those to you. Those workbooks are companions to the online lessons. So for those of you who are like, yeah, but I want to start math with my kids, totally fine. That PDF, you don't need to print it, but you can get in there and you can start checking out those lessons. We've asked all students to have a little bit of extra paper, pencils on the side. There's ways that whoever the learning coach is, whether that be yourself as a parent, a guardian, or a caregiver, you can start to work through some of those and get started into seeing what the lesson format is like. And the workbooks, like I said, they're on back order and they will be sent to your homes. So I don't want you to worry, they're coming, but everything, like everything, it's a little bit slow in terms of the mail delivery. So lastly, is a student demo site. And this I think is invaluable. Many parents are asking and have been asking this week, well, what's it look like for my kids? What's it going to look like when they log in there and what are they going to see? How do I get them on? So this is really, really cool. Edgenuity has a student demo site where you can get in there and let your kids kind of practice logging on, practice seeing what the dashboard looks like. I'm going to show it to you in just a minute and I'll walk you through that process. Because in addition to the workbook PDFs that teachers will share with you, they're also going to share this information about the student demo. So let me do a little, I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to do a little technology switcheroo here. So give me just a moment. And thank you for your patience. Hold on, almost there. All right, hold on here. There we go. All right, so what you'll see when the share screen becomes visible, can you guys in the Zoom room, can you see it with a thumbs up? Can you see the student information system login? Okay, great. So when the teachers share this student demo login with families, this is great. You'll be able to take your kids in there and play around without messing anything up. I love that. That's one of my favorite things to do is when somebody tells me you can't mess it up, I have a little bit more freedom. So please take some freedom when the teachers send you this. Go ahead in. When you get to the website and follow the link, you'll see this first. They'll send you this login. It's ELEM DEMO 757. And then the password is very simple. It's capital D demo, capital S student. But don't worry, you didn't have to write that down. We're going to send it to you. Teachers will send it out. And when you enter, this is what your child's dashboard will look like. Now, this is a pretend student, so I don't want you to, worry about anything here. I want to take your attention to the left side of the demo screen. The dashboard is what we're on now and basically gives you a quick snapshot of the classes that your child will have. And you can see the courses are over here on the left-hand side. You can see it will show you what grade your child has in that class, what percentage is complete of that class. Remember, we we're talking about monitoring that progress. And it's okay that maybe a certain percentage has been completed. You want to see what their grade is. And lastly, the pacing. You'll notice it will either say behind, or I think it will say on time, or ahead. So there's categories of knowing how your child's doing with the pacing. And that will help you as the learning coach when you go in with your child know, okay, are they on track, or do they need to kind of catch up? So those are some things that you can be helping to monitor as the learning coach. Over here, there's a tab for mentor information, course information. Academic snapshot gives you a quick snapshot of what the kids are working on. That student activity tab that I talked about, this is a way for teachers to kind of monitor the progress. And then there's some other links and things over here, such as a school calendar. Notice up here, there's a little email box. Many parents were saying, okay, well, does my child need to log into Google Classroom with their teacher in MyPath? And the answer is no. Our MyPath teachers are not doing Google Classroom like the RPath teachers are. This platform is their kind of Google Classroom in a sense. It's where everything is housed, and it's where they will be sending messages. Now, this week, though, your teachers are using their Walled Lake accounts to reach out to you. Please continue to do that until you get in and your dashboard is all set up. And then you'll use that email button to email your teachers. So we've got a little temporary bridge until we get into here. I do want to take you into the, let me just make sure I'm going into the course information here. And this will be really important. You might say, well, Kathy, I really want to, get in there with my third grader and let them play around, or I want to show my first grader kind of what first grade work looks like. So one of the great things you can do, whoopsie, there we go. One of the great things you can do, remember, you're not going to break it. You can check out third grade language arts. If you click on that, you'll notice it scrolling at the bottom of the screen, kind of like through a little menu. And when it stops, it'll say third grade language arts. Go to the course. And it takes you to this, this area where all of the courses are housed. Now, obviously, this student is a demo student, so everything is there. But you can scroll down and take a look at third grade language arts. And if you click on that, in you go. And there you go. Here's where the assignments are for the activities. If the learning coaches are helping to monitor, right? Our parents or our caregivers or whoever else is helping to be learning coach, what do you need to do? There's links there for you. There's resources down here, modules to check out. And you can get into here and just play around, get a feel for how this platform works and how the dashboard works and how it looks. You can't break anything. And it's like I said, it's a demo that anybody can use, and multiple people can be on this demo at one time. So it doesn't require one person at a time usage. So your teachers are going to email this link out to you. That will come tomorrow or possibly later tonight. It just depends on when the teachers are able to get that, but they have those resources ready to go. We did not want to share them with you before we had a chance to talk it through and show it to you. And we wanted to kind of explain the purpose behind that. So let me do a little switcheroo here. Give me just a moment to go back to the presentation. Share screen. Back we go. And we'll go back to present mode. Thank you. So that is what the demo looks like. And like I said, this is a great time to play around and let your kids try logging in and zooming around in there and seeing what they can check out. There's a lot of great opportunities for them to get familiar, which is what we want kids to do because that's going to help build their independence. So we're going to talk a little bit about FAPES right now. So many of you may be wondering, and I know that that was part of our conversations early on with Edgenuity, they not only offer the 4 core classes of language arts, math, science, and social studies for your grade level, but they also have what they call specials classes. We call them FAPES, Fine Arts, Physical Education, and those specials are also part of Edgenuity. And what Walled Lake has done is we have assigned Walled Lake mentor teachers to oversee the FAPES classes in Edgenuity. So for all of the students in Walled Lake who are in my path, we have 1 health or PE teacher, 1 art teacher, 1 music teacher, and 1 media teacher. So they're overseeing all the K-5 kids in my path, and they're going to be checking on their progress with those specials classes and some of those activities too, and checking in and helping. And they're really excited to get started with your children too. Like I said, they're covering all the kiddos, and we met with them today as well. And they've got a wonderful idea for a group welcome email. So please look for that from the group of the 4 FAPES teachers who will be working with your children in my path. And they've really got some creative ways they're going to be welcoming your kids and some fun activities to get them started and get them excited about some of their favorite courses, to be quite honest with you. As a former elementary teacher, I don't think there was anybody that was sad to go to the gym or to head off to music. They love their FAPES. So please know those FAPES teachers will be reaching out to you as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Nicole Moore. She's going to talk a little bit about how special services will be working in my path if you are a parent or a guardian of a student who has a special accommodation plan. Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening. As Mrs. Kohansky said, my name is Nicole Moore, and I am the Director of Special Services in Walled Lake. So in addition to the Walled Lake mentor teacher that Kathy shared with you, all students that have IEPs that have selected to the teaching and learning option of, thank you, my path, will also be assigned a special services case manager. So that individual could be a resource teacher, it could be a speech pathologist, but that case manager will check in with the student at least twice a week and really monitor the student's work completion. And their lens or their perspective is really on the student's goals and objectives. So you have 2 professionals, a Walled Lake mentor teacher that is looking at the core areas, so your English language arts, math, social studies, science, and then your FAPES. And then you have a case manager, and that individual is looking at the goals and objectives that are outlined within each student's IEP. So weekly, that individual will also collaborate with the Walled Lake mentor teacher and look at the student's progress and assessments that are within Edgenuity. The case manager will also offer accommodations and supports as needed. So we know that students are working at their own pace, and they may stumble in an area when it comes to vocabulary or some terminology within a lesson. So therefore, the case manager could offer specific accommodations and supports to the Walled Lake mentor teacher to support the teacher. The case managers are also expected to deliver instruction or service, meaning what is outlined in the IEP. So a student may have occupational therapy or speech pathology written within the IEP, and these services will still be provided to students who have selected the MyPath teaching learning option. Additionally, specific time will be set aside for students that require more instructional support. So if a student has a deficit in English language arts or math, they will receive instructional support remotely, in addition to the services within the IEP. So you will have individuals from the Special Services Department contact you within the next week to set up those specific times that they can meet with students as well. And additionally, we will move forward with continuity of learning plans. That is that plan that outlines the student support and need that functions and is implemented alongside the student's IEP. So consider it our remote plan for student success. So Kathy, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and that's really covers everything within the Special Services Department this evening.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nikki. So just like we talked about, it sounds like the teachers providing services through special services will have their own schedules that they're coordinating with their families, just like our teachers are. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, great. Thank
Correct.
you. Thank you so much. All right. So many families may be wondering about assessments. They may be saying, okay, well, in class, my students my children did various kinds of assessments with their teachers. What will assessments look like in MyPath? Well, one of the things that we want to do, we think is essential to do, and actually we're required to do, is to make sure that our students take a benchmark assessment within the first very few beginnings of the school year, within the first few weeks of the school year. Now, if you are the parent of a first grader through fifth grader and you were in Walled Lake last year, you're familiar probably with iReady. It's an online adaptive assessment that students take in both math as well as language arts. And we use that iReady data pretty rigorously in the district. We use it for setting student goals. We use it for setting and monitoring our district goals. So we collect that broad assessment data 3 times a year on elementary students. And so this year is not an exception, even though we're starting in a remote/virtual way. We are finding it very important that we get updated iReady assessment data on all of our students. Remember, it's been months since we've been able to be with them. And the last time students officially took their iReady assessment was last winter. So it was late January, early February. We suspended that spring diagnostic because we were sort of in survival mode in terms of covering what was needed to cover and teachers learning how to teach remotely and all of those good things. But iReady was sort of tabled. And we knew, though, that it would be an important part of our return to learn plan. So therefore it is. It is outside of Edgenuity, but I don't want you to stress about that. Your MyPath teachers will be communicating with you about taking the iReady diagnostic. And actually the company Curriculum Associates, who owns the iReady assessment, they have really pivoted nicely. They have set up ways for kids to take it at home and like a quick tutorial how-to for parents to help your kids. It's not hard. They walked us through it. So I can tell you that it will be palatable. It will be easy. And if you've got, like I said, first through fifth graders, they'll remember taking it last year. And our teachers are prepared, obviously, and very ready to help your children do that. So that will be mid-September. I think our test window opens, but we'll be communicating. Your teachers will communicate that to you. And there's several weeks of a testing window. You don't have to do it on one particular day. So we'll walk you through that process. And then the other assessments that are really part of MyPath are housed within Edgenuity. So remember at the beginning when we were talking about the courseware and we were talking about teacher monitoring students' progress and all of that and grading things, those assessments and things are housed within Edgenuity. So as your children complete lessons, complete assignments, teachers will open up some quizzes or tests, and then your children will take those, and then the teachers will be giving feedback on that. So those assessments are really built right into the heart of that curriculum. And then, that's really the basis of the assessments. Now, the only other exceptions might be, as Nikki talked about a short while ago with regard to special services. Obviously, students who receive special services might have an individualized assessment or a progress monitoring that they might be, doing with their caseload teachers in a one-on-one Zoom setting or something like that. So just know there's some exceptions to that, but as a broad system, these are the two assessment pieces that your children will be experiencing in MyPath this year. So that brings us to coming to almost to a close, but it's the what's next piece. So really, we've taken so much of your questions over the last week and a half to 2 weeks about what does it look like, how's it going to work, when's my student going to be logging on, who are their teachers, how will we communicate. All of those questions, hopefully we kind of built into this presentation so that you were able to get those answers and hear that. But I did want to put just a couple other pieces in this quick Q&A, and then I'm going to open up to the rest of the folks on the panel if they've got any, kind of burning questions about MyPath or things that parents have reached out about. Again, that Google Classroom question. At the elementary level, no, you don't need to worry about your students logging into their teacher's Google Classroom. They really will be communicating through Edgenuity primarily with you when that platform's up and going. For right now, use their Walled Lake emails. I'm sure that you got those when they reached out today. So just for the next couple of days, communicate with them in that form. The second one is about keeping students engaged. I know that is a concern. How do we keep kids engaged in this work? Maybe you're the parent of a child who has, difficulty sitting for periods of time. So I'm going to open it up to the panel if anybody's got thoughts. I know, Dr. Stout, you've worked for many years with the older students, but do you have any tips or tricks that you could share about increasing or keeping students engaged? What have you found that's been helpful? Oh, I think you're on mute.
You'd think after all this time I'd learn to unmute. One thing I'm quite certain about is that students, I think whatever age, who are working on these online classes, is that the encouragement and guidance from the grown-ups around them, it can feel like it's unnecessary, and I think it's probably even more necessary than it might be in a traditional classroom. So I think the fact that Edgenuity has provided us with these materials about being a learning coach is really an essential piece. And the other part about the engagement is that these online courses work best if students can do a little bit on them every day instead of nothing on them for several days and then thinking, oh, well, we'll catch up on some rainy Saturday. I think that they require a kind of attention and focus from children and even adolescents that dwindles over time. So if you can help your kids do a little bit all along the way instead of a whole lot on just 1 or 2 days during the week, I'm really sure that both of those things will help kids do their best.
Yeah, that's great, Laura. Thank you for sharing that. I hadn't even thought about that, waiting for the rainy day to kind of dive in and get that done. That could feel kind of daunting if you're a younger student and you've got a whole mountain of things to do in a short amount of time. And I have a feeling too that if your child, as with anything new, it's going to take some time to build up stamina. I know
Yeah.
that from many years as an elementary teacher and many years as an elementary principal, that it just takes some time and persistent practice, and they will get better at it. Just like riding a bike, just like learning to tie their shoes, just like when they were little. I'm a mom too, so I remember helping my kids to, learn to feed themselves and drink through sippy cups and all of those things, right? And after a while, they're pros at it. Very true for any new learning, and this system is not unusual in that matter. We need to give kids time to practice that, but I love that idea, Laura, of just a little bit every day instead of waiting and trying to get through a lot at once.
And I would say your analogy about learning to ride a bike is really an apt one, in that if we think about having done that with young children, you have to run along behind them and hold the seat, and then they can do a little bit on their own, and then they can barely be independent. And I think that's also true of this kind of learning. If they can do some of it with you, alongside you, some with your just coaching and cheering them on, and then some independently. All three of those ways of working with kids will help them. So the riding the bike metaphor is a pretty good one, I think.
Yeah, that's also, thanks for adding to that, Laura. I think that works well in this instance. And then one of the last bullets that I know I've heard from families on is, well, what about grading? What about report cards? Are they going to get report cards like everyone else? The answer is yes. Just like you were able to check out Family Access in Skyward and see who your child's teacher is, Skyward is going to remain open so that our teachers can be ensuring that we've got grading and that there's report cards and all of that stuff. You're not on a different track with that. You'll be receiving report cards just like every other student in Walled Lake is receiving report cards, and we're following the same timelines. So we want you to know that as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of it. Anybody on the panel have any other questions that they've run across or that they could anticipate that our parents may continue to wonder about?
Not so much a question, but I know that in the past, as a former middle school and high school principal and assistant principal, when you deal with correspondence courses, sometimes there's a tendency for high school students especially to really dig through one course and think that they're going to complete the entire course before they move on to a subsequent course. And while they may be interested in a topic, or they think that's going to grant some momentum, we have had some experience where students run out of time with the other courses. And so it's really wise for them to kind of compartmentalize or chunk up the lessons. It would not be a bad idea to maybe even replicate the AB schedule that the Hour Path students are doing, to do 3 classes per day, and then on the A day and another 3 classes on the B day. That's a nice way to kind of compartmentalize your time in 1 to 1.5 hour blocks throughout the day, with several breaks and a lot of flexibility, which is exactly why we entered into the option of having a MyPath flexible option. But just some kind of structure, whether it's elementary students, but certainly middle and high school students, really can be beneficial.
Yeah, Dr. Delgado, I'm going to ask you a follow-up on that, because I have this jogged my memory for another few emails that were sent my way over the last few weeks. And that is, what about students whose parents may feel that they should accelerate through the lesson progressions and move quickly through that? Do you have any advice because I know you oversee like advanced placement and advanced classes and moving kids up. So what about that in terms of elementary for K-5?
Sure. So I guess the first thing I would say is that the most important aspect is the learning of the material and the absolute understanding and mastery of the material, especially at the elementary level. Essentially, everything you're learning is going to become the foundation for years and years of learning to come. And so there's no rush to be first to finish in your pod or in your group or in your virtual classroom. And there's really no advantage to finishing early. Certainly, if students want to move at their own pace, it's my path, it's my pace, and they want to naturally move throughout course content, we can cross that bridge when we get to it and talk to the teacher about maybe unlocking a subsequent math class or lesson or something to keep them stimulated and keep them motivated throughout the duration. But there's not really any advantage. I would not sacrifice speed for learning and mastery and really true understanding of the foundational level, especially at the elementary level.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Another question that I wanted to address, and that is, and maybe Chris, you can help me answer this as well. We had parents maybe heard originally that their MyPath students could, when we return to face-to-face instruction, could move right back to face-to-face. And then we've heard parents maybe are a little conflicted, thinking that maybe that's not the case. Maybe if I'm signed up for MyPath, I'm in and I'm not able to go back when we go back to face-to-face learning. Can you talk a little bit about and clarify that and clear that up?
Absolutely. This was intended to be a program that was responsive to what our parents, what you on the call told us, that you needed this flexibility, that the daily bell schedule, the rigidity of that would not work for you. And so we honored that request and were responsive in creating this. Having said that, you absolutely can come back to in-person instruction, or if MyPath isn't working in these first couple of weeks, we can switch you back to our path. And so there is no set limit of time that you have to remain in the MyPath option for the entire first semester or longer. It will really be completely up to you and really assessing the needs of your child and what's best for them. So please contact your mentor teacher if anything needs to change, whether it's a return to in-person learning when we hopefully get back together, or if it's just not working out in these first couple of weeks, let them know and we can switch you back to our path. So it's your path, it's your pace, it's you can have it your way.
It's Burger King. Very good. Thank you for clearing that up. I know that was a concern that we had heard from some families just recently. They thought, oh, maybe MyPath isn't flexible. Maybe I'm stuck. And no, you're definitely not. Definitely not. So, well, that brings me to the end. I mean, I know we blocked off an hour. We're just a few minutes shy of that. If there are no other questions that the panel can think of or topics that they kind of wanted to touch base on before we close it up, Dr. Scout?
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes.
I'd like to circle back to the comment you made, Kathy, about the enthusiasm of the teachers, the mentor teachers. I think sometimes working on online courses, and particularly in a period of time where everyone is feeling quite a little bit more isolated from one another than we would have before, that these courses can make children and families feel more like that than they need to. And I just wanted to remind parents that there's a group of really capable, enthusiastic teachers that are connected to this and will help lessen that feeling of isolation and put your children in touch with the kind of teacher that we all want our kids to have, somebody who's interested in their learning and their progress. So even though you don't get to be in the same room with them, they're there and available to help and eager to do it. Mostly that's what I wanted to say. They're eager to do it.
Yeah, we had a really wonderful staff meeting with them. Parents, just so that you realize the timeline and all of this through the placement processes and the HR pieces and all of that. You know, many of these teachers who had applied to teach in MyPath and were doing so for such a variety of wonderful and important reasons, found out late Tuesday night or very early Wednesday morning that they were selected. So we know we're on a tight timeline, but don't worry. We're here to take care of you. We're here to take care of your children, your families. Our teachers are excited to do that. I know they were excited to reach out to you this morning. Please continue to check your email. Like I said, our teachers are ready to share these additional resources and cover those with you because we wanted the chance to present this information first. Just to send you documents and resources and things would have been very confusing without that follow-up of the Walled Lake teacher. So we needed this time to work with you, to share with you. We and our teachers needed that time to kind of settle in after their training and work with us. So we are in an awesome spot. We're ready to get rolling. Please look for that information from your child's teacher. And we wish you a great start. I think it's exciting. It's been a long time since I've been involved in something very new. And while sometimes being involved in new things comes with a little bit of anxiousness, please know it's not absent of enthusiasm. Everybody here is very excited to get this program launched and to work with all of you and work with your children. So we promise that we'll get this routine down pat, and it will feel very, very comfortable and very familiar as we get this rhythm moving along here. So thank you to our panel for joining in tonight. Thank you to all of you, and please continue reach out to your mentor teachers, and we'll learn along the way. We've got a great, exciting week ahead. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night.